I know for season 1 at least, they were using Tinder and other dating apps, and they would pretend to be your very hyper aware of the cameras and the crew. But after about the first day, that stuff all faded into the peripheral. And I remember he kind of banged the lens of the camera on the glass of the pod so that it like kind of jolted me out of the conversation we were having. Yesterday on a local news station, they were talking about Love is Blind, and one of the journalists, so-called, said that Lauren and I were pregnant on the show. And that's not true.
Yeah, it must be tough, given especially the fact, I think, that you're maybe what we would call, at least in the UK, an unlikely candidate for reality TV, because I don't know if you know, have you heard of Love Island in the UK?
Of course.
So Love Island is very much more a show where the people who go on are what you would expect from reality TV contestants. They're going on because they want to do it and it's kind of fun and all this sort of thing. So I wanted to understand the casting process a little bit more. I know that you got picked and you didn't ask for it. But were you selected, or was it kind of a mass text that was sent out or something? Or had your profile been found somehow? Like, that's the sort of bit I don't quite get.
No, I mean, and frankly, I don't quite understand it either. You know, I have a couple of prevailing theories, but you're right. I mean, I didn't seek this out, and neither did my wife, Lauren. It was something where casting reached out to us both. They found us both. Now, she had a social media presence before the show. I mean, it wasn't huge, but for the average person, it was very decent. For me, I didn't at all. I had maybe 200 followers on Instagram. I'd never used it. I think there's two things. So one was, I remember they were casting for this show called Married at First Sight, Second Chances. And I saw this line of guys outside of my office building one day. And, you know, a bunch of, you know, guys around my age all lined up. And I'm like, what the hell is this? I go to the front of the line. I talk to the person with the clipboard. I'm like, what's going on here? They said, hey, we're casting for Married at First Sight, Second Chances. Now, this is the same production company that also later produced Love is Blind a couple of years later. So I'm like, I don't think I gave them my contact info, did I? Or did they remember my face somehow and they like sought me out? The other theory is, I know for season 1 at least, they were using Tinder and other dating apps, and they would pretend to be a woman. And some of them were just regular casting people who were women, but they would pretend to be, you know, looking for a date, and they'd be like, hey, we're actually casting for this dating show. Are you interested? So it may have been that too, because I was on the dating apps at the time. Frankly, I don't know which way was the way that they actually found me. But it's crazy because I'd always been a fan of reality TV. And like you said, I'm not the likely person because, you know, I have this background being a data scientist. I wasn't trying to be a reality star. Living in Atlanta, there's a lot of opportunities to be involved in media. Like I did a lot of extra work for, not a lot, but some music videos and movies just as an extra background person. But that was the extent of it, really. So I wasn't looking for it, but it definitely found me.
Yeah, I mean, scientist, firefighter, I'm not surprised they picked you there. I think that's a bit of a no-brainer.
Very weird background for sure.
Yeah, I know. I was telling Ollie, Love is Blind, but I'm sure I'm very glad that I can see you. Not a surprise that they chose you. Very, very handsome.
Thank you. Have you guys thought about Love is Blind? Because I mean, I know they just did the UK, but they'll circle back, I'm sure.
I think I'm good, honestly. At this stage of my life, I might be a little bit young for the commitments that the show comes with. Maybe a little bit later in life. But I think for the
maybe
moment,
a little bit. Give it some time.
I'm already taken, so
okay.
Not for me. But I think maybe Ollie will give it a go at one point.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Anyway,
you really never know, right? Because life, like you just can't. I would have never predicted that this would have been how things turned out. You know, when I was 28 when I went on the show, and leading up to that, I thought I'll never get married, or I had no real interest in getting married. I didn't foresee getting on a reality show. So it's funny how life can work.
Yeah, reality, it's an interesting one. I mean, do you think that the fact that your relationship kind of started and was molded and structured in that setting, did you think that had any negative consequences, or do you think ultimately that was all quite positive?
I don't think there were any negative consequences from my perspective. My wife and I felt very comfortable in that environment, to be honest. It's funny, you know, when you first start getting filmed, you're very hyper aware of the cameras and the crew. But after about the first day, that stuff all faded into the peripheral. And I just focused on Lauren. And of course, there were moments when you kind of get shaken out of it. Like, I remember one time we were having a real kind of special moment, and they had cutouts in the pods for a camera lens to, you know, manually someone operating a camera to kind of get closer. And I remember he kind of banged the lens of the camera on the glass of the pod so that it like kind of jolted me out of the conversation we were having. But to answer your question, I think we really had no real negative consequences. We felt comfortable when we got, in fact, actually, when filming stopped, it was such a shock to the system because we were so used to being on camera together all the time. And then when there was no camera crew around us, none of this buzz, it felt a little eerie, you know, because there's this stillness, this silence in the air all the time. Where before, you know, it was like very high energy, very emotional time. You know, this was all a whirlwind that took place over 45 days. So, yeah, that was an adjustment period for sure.
Please welcome Cameron Hamilton.
He's a serial startup founder, an AI expert, data scientist, but most impressively, he's a successful contestant on Love is Blind.
What does it mean to you to take a leap of faith?
Throughout life, we are faced with scenarios where we must take a leap of faith. In the context of a relationship, that means being vulnerable. You risk being rejected by that other person, and that's scary.
Is love truly blind? Your company, Alliance AI,
For all of us who would love to preserve consciousness in a digital medium or back up our memories, our personality, if that's even possible.
So what do you think about OpenAI, for example, and how they're dealing with questions of objectivity?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed that short clip of our episode with Cameron Hamilton. If you want to see the full episode where we get into AI, real estate, and Love is Blind, you can click right here. And don't forget to like and subscribe so we can keep getting guests like these and keep bringing you guys interesting content. Thanks so much. See you next time.